Good afternoon. Welcome to Mike and the Hoss on Wolfeboro Community Television. I'm Mike Danais.
And I'm Charlie Hossack.
Coach, good seeing you.
Nice to see you, Mike.
This is episode 3 of our social distancing.
It is. It is.
And again, I don't think it's going to be our last one.
I don't think so. I wanted to let you know, sorry that I'm speaking over you. I talked to a friend yesterday. I want to give him a shout out. It's Matt down in southern New Hampshire. And he's a big fan of the show. He's actually my best man at my wedding. And he loves the shows. And he said even our social distancing episodes are good. So nice to hear. So thanks for watching, Matt.
Well, people are desperate now to watch something, so I'm glad we can fill that void. How you holding up?
Okay, yeah. It's just I don't know. It's like the new routine, right? It's kind of it's the same thing every day, but it's keeping busy with remote learning, and we got the puppy, as you know, so we got a lot of quality puppy time, and just kind of doing the same thing day in and day out. But it's okay. How are you guys doing?
Pretty much the same thing. It's you're trying to get into a routine. Our mornings are and early afternoons are filled with the online learning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with, I got about 76 kids that I'm covering on my team, so they're all needing a little something here and there, and I'm glad to be there. And then the afternoons are the honey-do list. There's that seems to be growing. It doesn't seem to be shrinking. That seems to be growing a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we try and get outside, and we try and do some hiking and at least walking, just to get up from the seats and stuff like that. So that's
good.
So let's talk about the show a little bit. We have the athletic director for Kingswood, Aaron House, coming on our show, who's going to be sharing a program that he's starting dealing with esports, which I'm very interested in hearing his presentation on this, and I know he's eager to share it.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's, he himself, he's trying to fill that void. Last week, we had Alex Drea, who he had put down the physical activity stuff, that Google Classroom piece.
Yeah.
And then we had Mike Potenza and Dan Place recapping their season, which was definitely a nice thing. Tried to get Peter Kelly on. We're gonna have to adjust our hours to do the show because he does work until 4:30, and he said it's tough for him to step away to do the show. So maybe next week we could take a look at that.
I understand that. Yeah, that would be great to get him on.
So New Hampshire sports updates.
A
couple things. I mean, right now on paper, we're supposed to come back after vacation May 4th. And the season's supposed to get going, at that point, but then games mid-May.
Yeah, mid-May.
I think we're both skeptical that that's going to happen.
I am skeptical, but did you see, I'm sure you saw this, you probably wanted to talk about this, the latest information. I got it as a tweet, but that
Jeffrey Collins?
The commissioner of the NHIAA said that even if we were to continue with remote learning, there's a possibility that we could still have spring sports.
Yeah, and I think that's a game changer for everybody. I do have questions for him, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get him on our show, but and we're going to actually talk about this with Mr. House, and we'll probably ask him these questions too. That remote learning means that buses aren't operating, and then you're dealing with access.
Yeah.
Is there fair and equal access to the athletic programs if that were the case?
Right. Right.
I mean, I think if they were to go back and play sports and still remote learn, I mean, I'm all in. I think if they can do it safely, I think it's a great idea.
Right.
But I think there are a few hurdles that they're going to have to get over before they can launch something like that.
I agree, and it's definitely specific district to district, because if we in our district is so large that'd be a huge challenge, unlike a smaller district where the kids all live within 5 or 6 miles of the school.
Well, and then what happens when districts say, I don't want to do this? Or the districts do that. And so now let's say I don't know, let's say there's 20 districts in the state. I know there's more than that, but let's say there's 20 districts in the state, and half of them say no.
Yeah. And what if your officials say, you know what, I don't want to officiate? So
a home plate umpire who's in his 60s, who has a pre-existing health concern, does he want to be sitting behind a catcher who's has allergies and he's coughing up, and I mean, this could be there's a lot of questions. I think it may be. I hope it happens, but I think it may be far-reaching for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But again, hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything else that really came out with the NHIA sports, and then we can ask Mr. House. He's certainly in,
Right.
In the loop more than we are as far as those discussions go. So I think it'll be great to ask him beyond what we're doing with the esports. MLB, did you
Yes.
this? That they are talking of a potential May start date where everybody plays in one location.
Mm-hmm.
In Arizona, so there was one that they were floating around. No fans.
Right.
Just all the teams go to one of the spring training facilities.
Yeah.
And there's like 9 fields at, these spring training facilities. You've been down to those things.
Yeah.
And they just play in what amounts to almost, some of those fields are like high school complexes.
Yeah, you're right. And then they could still use, they're close enough they could play some games where the Diamondbacks play as well. So you could have, I saw that they had, put the possibility that they could do 3 doubleheaders in the MLB stadium and then playing the games in the, what is it, the Grapefruit League? Is that what they call it out there, those parks?
Are they grapefruit up there?
I don't know. I think so. Yeah. But either way, but I think I'm all in for that. I think it's great. I think the country needs it. I think, us being in isolation, if they can do it safely and Major League Baseball agrees to it, it's not going to impact us other than the fact that we get to actually watch baseball and have something to cheer for.
And then the players would all be they would be quarantined in hotels.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that part. They would still be in isolation as far as, and that I guess this is predicated on if they come up with the quick test. If the quick test goes through where they can get instant results on, if somebody has it or not, because if that's the case, then they could be testing everybody every day, and if somebody has it, then that team doesn't play or those players don't play.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think that it is. I like this. These organizations thinking outside the box a little bit.
Right, I agree.
Try to make things happen and maybe give a little bit of hope. Last week,
that's what we need. We need the hope and just the distraction. I think people need a distraction, whether it's baseball or hockey or whatever it is. People are looking to do something else to keep their minds off, really of going nuts, just being in isolation and giving them something to kind of look forward to. I know for me, and we talked about this at the beginning of the show, I look forward to going outside with the dog. Just it's the little things, or taking a quick ride or something around the neighborhood. But it's the small things that I look forward to, and I think having baseball or some type of professional sport would be amazing for the country.
Well, and think what that would do if you knew that the Red Sox were playing at 7 o'clock, or 5 o'clock or whatever. That would bring a lot of excitement just to say, okay, I got my work done. I'm going to sit down and watch something current.
Yep.
There's all kinds of Red Sox games on. There's all kinds of Patriots games on and baseball games on right now, but they're from 6 years ago. And it would be nice to actually see what's going on right now. And it would almost be must-see TV. There's only so many series I can binge watch on Netflix right now. And
I know.
At some point, we just want to do something a little bit different.
Yeah. Speaking of that, on Netflix, have you watched All-American?
The series?
The series, yeah.
No, I have not.
So my daughter got me turned on to it, and it's good because it's football related and it's a drama, but it's I like it. So if there's something you're looking to binge watch, All-American.
Thank you. I remember there was a movie that came out that was called All-American with Dennis Quaid, who was a football player.
Yeah, yeah.
Jessica Lange, I think, was in it, and it was good, but it was more drama based. It was the aging football star, how most of those things are.
Yeah, yeah.
Real quick, favorite sports movie?
Well, I think favorite sports movie would have to be, growing up, I would say that, with my kids, it would be The Sandlot. But I think for me personally, I don't know. I like The Natural.
Oh, that's good. That's been on a little bit.
Yeah.
On a little bit lately. Natural's is a good one.
Yeah.
I'm a Field of Dreams.
Yeah, that's great. That'd be a close second for me.
Well, there's something else that's going on this summer is that the Yankees and I forget the other team are supposed to be playing in Iowa in the cornfield.
Is it the White Sox? It'd be Chicago? Is it in Chicago?
No, it's in Iowa in the cornfield.
Oh no, I understand that. Aren't they playing Chicago, the White Sox?
I don't know the second team. I'm not sure the second team, but it would make sense.
I know that it's in Iowa.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard me. We're distance learning here right now. So, it would make sense if it was the White Sox.
Yeah.
Considering that the movie is really loosely based on Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yes.
So, but I wonder if that's going to happen.
I don't know. I mean,
that's what actually should happen. If there's isolation that can happen, it's probably in the cornfield of Iowa.
Exactly, and I'm sure you've seen what they're going to do. They've shown the rendition of what it's going to look like, and it's awesome. So you have the original Field of Dreams that's there that you can go visit, and then it's going to be they're going to cut through the cornfield into more of a Major League-esque type park. So
I think that's Field of Dreams is my number one. That's my wife and I's first date too. Was Field of Dreams.
That's nice. That is nice.
So just a little.
If they build it, they will come, or
what's that?
What is it? If they build it, they will come, or if you build it,
he will come.
Yeah.
Build it, he will come. So, and there's Mr. House right on cue. Well done, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
Hey, we're going to let you jump in on this conversation. We were just talking about favorite sports movies. Real quick, what do you got?
So if I have to go off the list that we're publishing on our website, geez, there's so many good ones on there. The Natural is one that I can just sit down and watch.
Great minds think alike.
But there's a lot of good ones we put out there, and of course those are all the ones that are rated PG-13 or lower. There's a lot of great sports movies that you have to climb that notch a little bit, but yeah, I think The Natural is always a good go-to one.
Yeah,
I have not looked at your list. Is Field of Dreams on your list?
Field of Dreams is on there, yeah.
Okay, as it should be.
And the kids and I, we just watched Seabiscuit a few nights ago. Whenever that one was published out there, that was a good one.
I'm surprised you didn't select. I would have thought you would have selected Miracle.
Miracle's on there. Yeah, it's on the list.
You're a hockey guy, so
yeah, I think that's a great movie. But I can only live one miracle at a time. So I've seen it, and I kind of like watching just some of the other ones.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's awesome.
Now Slapshot, I could definitely watch that more than one time.
But that's not on your list.
That's not on your list.
And I'm not advocating for anyone to watch Slapshot.
No, you got to climb that ladder to get that one.
Another good one it's kind of more of a B movie is Goon. It's a hockey movie. You ever seen Goon?
You know what? I have. My dad, when I told him I was putting together this 30 sports movies in 30 days, he said, "Oh, you got to put Goon on there." And I let him know that it's considered. And just funny enough, we had a athletic department meeting on Monday. We've been holding true to our schedule, and I asked Alex Drea, what would you want to see up there? And he said Cool Runnings. And very next day, boom, Cool Runnings was up. So hopefully Alex had a chance to watch that.
How about I got to look at your list, Aaron. But how about McFarland? That was a great movie.
That is on there as well.
Yeah, that's good. I saw that in the theaters. Great movie.
Yeah. And I'm sure that Sandlot is on there, and it just came out. Sandlot's 26 years old. Sandlot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sandlot made it's a good list. I keep going back and forth on what it should be, but I think for all intents and purposes of being family movies, there's always a couple scenes that you might question, but I think at the end of the day, parents have to make up their minds on what their kids should be watching. And I feel like we've done a good job putting decent family sports movies out there for sure.
Well, Mr. House, first of all, let me welcome you to our program and thank you for coming on. We brought you on to talk about one of your upcoming initiatives. We'll call it an initiative. But before we do that, Charlie and I were discussing NHIA sports, and Jeffrey Collins came out, and you probably obviously saw this, that a possibility that even if remote learning continues, that sports may start up with the state. I don't know if you caught that tweet.
Yeah, I think first, I think I jumped right into your conversations about movies. I just, again, want to thank you for having me on. And I think we all are kind of in this together. And hopefully you and your families are well. We're holding up well over here, but the sports piece of things, I think it's just day by day. I think flexibility is the key word. I was just talking to Coach Nelson a few minutes ago before I called in, and he had kind of mentioned the same thing. And I honestly, if let's say the academic school year ends and sports is not able to get going until let's say it can happen middle of July. Mm-hmm. I would say let's do it. Let's come up with something creative. Let teams practice for 2 weeks, and then maybe you do an open tournament for the fans and the kids just to play. And you can still crown someone state champion. It doesn't. I mean, if they win a tournament, they win a tournament. So I just don't. It's tough to really understand what is going to come down the pike on any of this. I think Mr. Collins is doing a great job keeping us informed. If anyone wants to play the games and to see his state athletic association be able to put a season together, it's definitely Mr. Collins. But I think we just got to wait and see what transpires. I think the kids, whenever we get the green light, we certainly will do stuff within Kingswood athletics as far as having intra-squad scrimmages and recognizing seniors, whatever it takes to make sure they get the recognition they deserve. Again, if that's the beginning of August, it's the beginning of August. So I think we just got to be patient, see what comes down the line.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. One of the things that we just talked about had to deal with MLB, the potential of them starting in May at one site, and it kind of morphed into the fact that we talked about hope, that there's hope that they will start, and I think what you just said would bring a lot of hope to a lot of our spring athletes that are out there, twiddling their thumbs and doing workouts, and with the idea that maybe there will be some sort of a lacrosse season or some sort of a baseball season, so that all this practice that they're doing is going to go for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And a lot of teams have started, their off-ice conditioning. A lot of coaches have put together a lot of good drills, and Alex is doing a great job putting together the home workouts. Yep. And I think if I know anything about Kingswood athletes and the athletic department, is our kids are going to persevere at the time when the time is right and come out on top. It's tough sometimes to consider maybe the cup is half full as opposed to half empty right now. But that's my approach. Stay positive. And when we talk about this new initiative, that's the idea. Just pivoting, and what can we focus on in the short term to provide additional content or programming for our kids.
Right. That's a great segue. Why don't we go there? Because one of the reasons we have you on, we'll have you on every week, Mr. House, but is something that you're doing that is is different. It is different right now. I know that it's out there at colleges, but you're. I'm gonna let you describe it. Why don't you tell us what you have going on?
Yeah, well, it's just, again, one of these things where we're trying to pivot into the new normal, even if the new normal is just short-term stay-at-home orders. And our kids, I just feel like there's a need for kids to remain social. There's a need for them to feel like they can compete in something. And you guys played sports. I played sports. We all coach at this point. There's something about kids who participate in activities or athletics, even drama kids or band kids. They want to get better. They want to keep working. They want something to be competitive in. And I always kind of, I don't want to say snubbed, but I heard esports. I've been paying attention. I myself have been playing video games since the first Nintendo Entertainment System. Played that ice hockey game where you could choose the size of your guy. Yeah. I always like to roll with two fat guys and a skinny guy and a medium-sized guy in that game. But there's something about games, and whether it's a video game or a football game, being able to play with your friends and having that social interaction, having the ability to, again, to be competitive and to do it in an organized and fun way is really what we're trying to do with esports at Kingswood. And we're not reinventing the wheel. This exists all across the world. It hasn't happened yet here for Kingswood. And Michael House, my son, he actually started this 3 weeks ago with his Pee Wee hockey team. He put together an NHL 20 season where he got all his buddies' screen names, They know how to find each other once they get into the system. He set up a schedule. There's winners, there's losers, there's kids that are being crowned the champion in his league. And it just looked to me like the kids were having fun. You hear them talking in their living room and talking a little bit of smack through the headset. And when I saw that going on, I was like, there's no reason why we can't do that in our high school athletic department.
So where are you at as far as putting this thing together?
I would say at the very beginning, the biggest thing was to do the research to understand what is esports, where is it going. And when you dig into this stuff and you realize that you have to look no further than Southern New Hampshire University, who has a varsity esports team and is giving out scholarships for kids to come to their school and play video games. It's like, okay, let me dig a little further. Then you find out that Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, owns Boston Uprising, which is the esports team for Boston. And they have a training facility right next to Gillette in Patriot Place called the Helix Esports Center. So this is big time stuff. So for me, it was like, okay, what's the simplest way to get this going for our kids? And one thing that we had to try to understand was the functionality. How do we do something when we're not all together in one room? When you're all in one room, it's very easy to come up with plans and suggestions. And as you guys know, even hosting your show right now, it's just a different feeling as opposed to being in the room together, right? So the biggest thing was, well, the kids need consoles. In order to play, you need a console, and then you also need the games to play. And one of my questions was, well, how many kids have consoles? Because I certainly don't want to imagine that everyone has a video game system. And the research that we found was 80% of tweens and teenagers, 80% have a gaming console. Now, again, that's nationally. That's not necessarily Governor Wentworth School District. So that was one of my big concerns, is you don't want to start something or have something going on where kids can't participate if they want to. So, but again, as we get into this, I don't know where it's going. I don't know if we're going to have 10 kids sign up. I don't know if we're going to have 50 kids sign up. Registration's open now. Right now we are at 15 kids, and I've heard from other kids. I've heard actually from kids wanting additional games. So our thing was, being an athletic department, let's offer sports games. Let's do Madden, NHL, NBA, and FIFA soccer. And we've got students, middle school students and high school students, emailing me asking me for Super Smash Brothers, Rocket League. And Michael and I, we just watched Rocket League World Championships 2 nights ago on television. So these kids are asking for a game that I really didn't even know existed, but apparently it's big business in the world of esports. So that's my long answer, Mike, to your question. We're at the beginning. We're just trying to provide an avenue for kids to be competitive, have fun. Their name will be in the lights if they win, whether it's social media, the website will have standings going. We're going to have a dedicated webpage on KingswoodAthletics.org so people can check in on the standings to see who's doing what. And we'll just go from there and see where it takes us.
Nice.
Oh, that's great, Aaron. Now, do you think, as far as looking ahead, is this something are kids going to compete against each other, or are we looking also to get other schools involved?
Well, I don't know. The athletic directors have been meeting, once a week on Wednesday. So we actually had another meeting today. And it's been great. I mean, a lot of ideas being shared. I certainly shared this idea that we have going here. And I had 6 to 8 athletic directors follow up with me afterwards, asking me to send them the materials. So I sent them the handbook, the same handbook that's sitting on our website. This is how we're structuring it. And we'll see where it goes. I think it would be great if our kids are interested and their kids are interested. And next thing you know, if you say you win our 2-week season in Madden football, then you advance to a 1-day tournament against kids from other schools. But again, that is more than I'd want to bite off right now. because that's a whole nother level of scheduling and organization. But there does seem to be some interest out there. And I think John Stark is the only high school right now that actually has a varsity esports team. And they belong to I don't remember the exact name of their league, but it's a high school esports league. And they do it basically the same way we do it. You just have to be ready to go online and play someone from California in whatever particular video game it is. And they have national standings and rankings and all that good stuff. So I don't know. I think it's still too early to tell, but I think for us, again, just providing the kids an outlet to be competitive and have some fun is the key goal right now.
So, Aaron, I just full disclosure, I sent you these questions ahead of time because I think that these are questions that parents would have, and Mike and the Hoss is certainly not Dateline, so we're not into blindsiding anybody. So, questions from parents that might come up. What about the parents who don't want their kids having that more screen time? How are you going to answer them if their kid wants to do it, they don't want to do it? I mean, have you looked at that yet?
Well, I think the first thing that everyone should know is this is not a replacement in any way, shape, or form to what our programming should be at this time of year. I certainly wouldn't want to see half of our lacrosse and baseball team decide, I'm going to be an esport player, and then never go back to actually be part of those sports. That's not the intention with any of this. And what happens when we go back to school? I don't know. I mean, maybe we start an esports club that's actually inside the brick and mortar. Screen time's tricky. I mean, we all have kids. I'm sure your kids are older than my kids, so you probably have a different measuring tactic than I do. My wife and I typically are saying, an hour of screen time Monday through Friday, and we as parents can manage that still. So I think that's a kitchen table conversation in terms of what's too much screen time. What would this do to that screen time overall? I can tell you that Michael, my own son, milks it a little bit with his esports, his hockey league. He said, "Well, I had an hour of screen time, but I have a half-hour league game coming up, so I get 90 minutes today." And it's like, okay, buddy, go ahead. I'll tell you what, for a hockey player, he's pretty smart. So I don't know, Mike. I think that starts with the parents and the kids. The games themselves, you're looking at maybe 2 to 4 games a week, and the games should only be a half hour in length. So whether you're playing in this league for an hour or 2 hours a week, I think it just depends on how many leagues you sign up for. Some of these kids that are registering, out of those 15 that I mentioned, some of them have signed up to be in multiple leagues. So they not only want to play the NBA league, they also want to be in Madden. So that is where I'm looking at it like, ooh, that could get a little dicey in terms of how, if a kid is in all 4, then does his screen time blow through the roof because he's playing that many more games per week. So it's definitely a concern, especially now since all the kids are basically remote learning using laptops. And again, that's for academics. But even at the end of the day, that's still screen time. And there's been obviously studies done on the impacts of these screens on us, So I think I would defer to the parents on that and the kids and try to work to the best of their ability on what is a good amount of screen time per day.
I think Aaron, you answered it very well at the very beginning, that this is not intended to replace traditional sports. And I think that statement in itself will probably set a lot of parents at ease. As a parent myself, obviously, if I had a choice between my kids going out and playing lacrosse or playing lacrosse on esports, I'd rather them go outside and play lacrosse or baseball and so on. So, and I think you answered this also. So when the kids, when everything starts back up again, whenever that is, and the regular sports are happening, do you see this as being a varsity program, or would be, and you kind of answered it anyway, that revert more towards a club that they could do in addition to their regular sports?
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, it's probably going to be some crossover between, kids who are actively involved with Kingswood athletics, varsity athletes, JV athletes, middle school athletes, and kids that would have an interest in being part of an esports club. I also think, though, there's a segment of the population at our school that maybe are not playing sports, and now this is a good place for them to be. And again, remember, sports at the end of the day, it's great to win, it's great to have a great practice, but it's a safe environment for a couple hours a day, Monday through Friday. And when parents, entrust the athletic department or the coaches, that's a big responsibility. So I think having a safe place for kids to get together, if esports or video games are their interest, I think we should look just to explore the opportunity. Does it make sense to start an official esports club upon return? I don't think we're ready to have it be a varsity sport yet. The NHIAA has talked about adding esports a lot. I mean, I think there's 14 or 15 state high school associations that now have this as a varsity sport. New Hampshire is not one of those states yet, but should that happen to change, that the NHIA does adopt it as a varsity sport, it would be great to kind of already have it in the mix here at Kingswood, where we can just slowly roll it right into a varsity status program, and go from there. So yeah, I heard one AD say this the other day, and I keep saying it. We're kind of, we're building the plane as we're flying it, and we're just doing our best to keep the nose up, and I think this has a lot of potential. But yeah, I go back to what I said earlier. It should not be a replacement, for kids. I think getting outside, doing Alex's workouts. I've heard that Eric Nelson was telling me that there's a lot of stuff being shared around in the soccer world in terms of competitions that are circulating. I think all that stuff is great. This to me is just another little piece of component that a kid could do a half hour a day and feel like they're connecting again with some teammates that maybe they haven't seen in person for a few weeks.
Anything else, Charlie? I got one more thing to say.
No, I think it sounds like a great program, and kudos to you. And I actually think I should be saying kudos to Michael. It sounds like it's really Michael is the brainchild behind all of this. So
he is. I'll let him know. Yeah.
But thank you, Aaron.
And I want to second Charlie. I think Governor Wentworth has been ahead of the curve with their online learning, and I also think we've been ahead of the curve with the remote athletic access with Alex's stuff. Coach Skelly has been putting on almost daily stuff onto the baseball that we actually included the middle school on. I just added the middle school baseball program into that. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity, and coaches are going out of their way, including yourself, to try to find something extra, different, something that enriches the kids' lives while they're going through this. And I applaud you for that. And I think Governor Wentworth as a whole has been doing a pretty nice job.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, these are uncertain times, and the one certainty that can exist for our kids is that their coaches and teachers are here for them, and we're trying to do our best just like they are. Governor Wentworth School District, just as a side note, there's some athletic departments around the state. They're not going to be paying their spring coaches, and this is something they're just taking the position of no play, no pay. Our school district has gone the other way, and our spring coaches are receiving their stipends. And I think that speaks volumes to the community that we have, and the belief that, this is no one's fault, and this is all going to go back to a better situation in the long run. So, yeah, I think you're right, Mike. I think we're doing a lot of good stuff, and you're obviously a coach on staff as well, and I applaud all our coaches. And we're going to be doing a round table, I think, in the next week. Get all the coaches in on a big call just to start hammering out additional ideas. It's a good start, but where do we go from here if we find ourselves, possibly in our homes past that initial May date? I think we just got to continue to be creative.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, well said on everything. You presented very nicely your program, and I think it's going to, those that watch this will get a better understanding of what you have going on. So thank you for coming on, and stay safe. And you and your family, stay safe, please.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Be well.
Aaron, take care.
Bye, Aaron. So it was really nice to have him. I thought he did a good job explaining his program. And, and we've talked about this before, Coach, that there's more to sports than just the physical part. There's the social emotional part that sports brings, building confidence, communication, learning how to talk to others. And esports does provide those types of things.
Yes.
Maybe not to the same level as some of the other ones do, but right now we're all trying to fill voids in, and I think that does fill a void. I appreciate him saying, almost emphatically, that this is not a replacement for those traditional sports.
Right, and it was great, and I was really glad to hear that this is just another. I think it's I don't want to call it a distraction, but it's another positive thing in our community that kids can have the opportunity to do that still allows them to have some type of competition and social interaction, and they're still going to be continuing to play sports once we get going.
Yeah, so that was nice. I was glad we had him. On another note, that something came out of that is him having the feeling that no matter when they start, that they're going to start.
Yeah.
We do something in July, do something in August. So the spring athletes will, hopefully be able to put on a baseball uniform, and hopefully I'll be able to pick up their lacrosse stick. And
right.
I think it's going to be difficult to put that together, but if the mindset is that we're going to do it at some point, then I think I wish that message would get out to the athletes.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a lot of them have already written off their seasons, and maybe they, we know a lot of them watch the show too. But hearing that from the athletic director, I think will be helpful for them.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
So, we have about 15 or so minutes left, and I had put down that I thought it was a good time to talk about the decade of the 2010s to 2020.
Sounds good.
And, I generated a list. You obviously seen the list about. Now, we're not the only ones doing this.
No.
I had a lot of choices of lists to go from, and so I have New England sports stories, the biggest New England sports stories, but I also have the biggest national stories. And I'm thinking, based on our time, that maybe we could push off the national world stories until next week, because we're probably going to need a few things for next week too.
Yeah, let's talk about New England.
And we also have videos to go with it. So the folks at home are going to see some videos while we're doing this. Not a lot of them, but there are a couple of them. Now on our list, I figure this. This is in reverse order. So we're going to start with number 10. Mm-hmm. And this was a list that I pulled off, and I thought, it's not necessarily a list that I would have, but it would be a good discussion as far as, if you think this belongs on the list of the top 10 sports moments or stories from 2010 to 2020 in New England sports.
Yep.
All right. So the first one, the New England Patriots draft Rob Gronkowski, tight end, Arizona.
Yeah.
So how pivotal was he in the success of the Patriots over the last 10 years?
Well, when they drafted, it's interesting because when they drafted him, people were looking around like, really, who is this guy, type of thing, which is interesting. It's similar to Tom Brady, right? But obviously, I think 10. I mean, I might even move him up a little on my list because without Rob Gronkowski, many of those Super Bowl rings would not be on Tom Brady's fingers.
They did win in 2014 without him.
Yes, they did.
He did not. He got hurt. I don't know where he got hurt that season, but I find it interesting. I mean, it was your typical Belichick thing where he did not play the junior year or senior, whatever year he got drafted. He did not play that year because he had those back issues.
Right.
And Belichick had took a flyer on him in the second round,
mm-hmm.
but he's a Hall of Famer. He's all world talent.
Yeah.
But I also think he brought a little bit of an identity to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Which was, you can't put a dollar amount on that.
No.
You see, he's floating around coming back again.
I know. So I don't even really want to talk about that because that's frustrating. I mean, certainly it'd be great if he came back, but that whole last year, with our program, it was such a tease all the time, and it really got to the point that I think you had said it. This I'm tired of Rob, Gronkowski.
Yeah.
And he just had his debut with the Masked Singer, and then he did the WWE. So I mean, he's obviously still popular and still making money. If he wants to come back, that's fantastic. But you know, what are your
I'm
thoughts?
with you. I'm with you. Let's stop talking about them.
Okay, good.
All right. Celtics trade Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to Brooklyn.
Okay.
That was a big trade. Because you remember what they got? They got 3 number ones, if I'm right. 3 number ones and the Celtics were not winning a title with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce at that point.
No, it was time. I think that was a good move by Ainge, because they got their title in 2008, and Garnett and Paul Pierce were not the Garnett and Paul Pierce of a few years prior to that. So I think that was a good move.
No, and I think Trader Danny makes some good trades, but I think he also makes some poor ones. And they did win in 2008. They should have won in 2011 also.
Right.
And he traded Kendrick Perkins, at the trade deadline that year, and it changed that identity of that team. With Kendrick Perkins, they win another title.
I agree.
That 3 wins another title. So
speaking of Garnett, though, Hall of Famer now, Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, because they wanted to retire his number in Minnesota, and that didn't work out. He's not happy with ownership in Minnesota right now. So yeah. So that's
he had a few choice words for ownership.
A few choice that we won't repeat, but it's going to be nice to see number 5 retired at the Garden.
All right, so hopefully Timothy's ready. We have a video for this next one, so let's see if the video plays.
Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy. The grand slam. And Torrey Hunter injured himself going over the wall.
Into the Red Sox bullpen. He appears to be all right. Boy, that was a nasty spill over the wall. Looked like he had blood on the back of his head. What'd you say, partner? David Ortiz had never homered against Joaquin Benoit until now. Fastball.
He's been as clutch, maybe more clutch than any hitter in the game in October since he came to the Red Sox.
I didn't think initially that Torrey Hunter came that close, but he did. It was caught by the bullpen catcher of the Red Sox. Nasty spill.
Thankfully, Hunter's okay to continue. As these fans packed into Fenway salute Ortiz.
This was even though the video that I grabbed was not the David Ortiz, it was the same home run, because the David Ortiz one was actually the radio broadcast.
Yeah.
And the TV broadcast is the one that I happened to grab. And this is what the police officer in the bullpen putting his hands up. That was a magical season. And it didn't start that way. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But that team wasn't expected to do anything. They were just coming off of it wasn't the beer and chicken, but it was coming off the Bobby Valentine year.
Right.
It was John Farrell's first year as manager.
Mm-hmm.
They came out of nowhere, and there was just a bunch of unsung heroes. And it was really a magical year for Boston, and for obvious reasons that we'll talk about in a second. Next on the list, Aaron Hernandez accused of murder. That's not the reason why it was magical. This is a different.
Yeah, totally different topic.
Again, these are sports stories in New England, and that was a big one.
Yeah.
I
think it was huge because, and I'm sure you've seen the documentary, but it was huge because he acted like everything was normal. I mean, and he lied to everyone. He lied to Coach Belichick. He lied to Robert Kraft, and he still went out there and did his job. And he was a great football player. But then he was leading this life of a murderer.
He was. I mean, he killed 3 people that we know of, that we think of, based on that documentary. One for sure, Odin Lloyd, and then those 2 other people on the drive-by. He was playing football and going into the Patriots facility days and weeks after committing these murders.
Yeah.
And he had signed a big contract extension a month after committing the Odin Lloyd murder, I believe.
Yeah.
That was some crazy news channels, during while that was going on, just because it was the Patriots. There's your sports heroes and
yeah. I mean, and think about this too, just from a football perspective. If Hernandez hadn't committed those crimes and been arrested and gone to jail, think of how much better, and this is hard to say, the Patriots would have been with Gronkowski and Hernandez. I mean, unstoppable.
When they got that combination going, they were unstoppable.
Yeah.
Because, Hernandez is obviously, a really evil person. He was a great football player.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was so dynamic for what he could do with his size and his quickness and his connection with Brady at the time. It was really fun watching both of them out there, but
yeah,
you can't have murderers on your team.
No.
Here's another video.
Unless you're the Cowboys. Sorry. That's just a little something for Tom.
Bill Belichick benches Malcolm Butler in Super Bowl 52. I'm sorry, I don't have the video on this one. So that was a big story. Do they win if Malcolm Butler plays?
Do they win if Malcolm Butler? I got to go to my list. I'm sorry. I'm stuck with Malcolm Butler's interception.
No, we're not on.
We're talking about when Malcolm Butler was benched.
The Super Bowl 52 against Philadelphia.
Yeah, Malcolm Butler standing there crying during the national anthem.
We're gonna have to pick up our pace a little bit, but would they have won if Malcolm Butler plays?
Probably. Yeah, okay. I think so. But who knows? We could play that game all day long. But
they were one pass deflection away from probably.
Yeah, and maybe Butler makes that play. So
maybe. What's interesting, and we're not going to stay too long on this one, but nobody knows why.
No.
Day, nobody knows why.
That's amazing that even after all this is said and done, nobody said anything.
I think that's going to be the Netflix 10-part documentary on why Malcolm Butler didn't play.
Right.
Because that is a mystery that nobody has the answer to.
Yeah, well,
not the closest sportscasters.
Coach Belichick and Malcolm Butler know.
They do.
Yeah.
This next one, I think, is probably one of the more uplifting moments that I can remember in sports. It was after the marathon bombing, and the Red Sox, started playing again, and Ortiz came up, and there was all kinds of ceremonies. They brought out all the police officers and the firemen and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And David Ortiz grabs the mic, and I'm not going to say this I won't use all the words, Timothy, but this is our blank blank city, and the place went crazy. Fenway Park went absolutely crazy when he did that.
Right.
But you felt it. You just felt so much Boston pride and New England pride when that happened.
Yeah. The whole Boston strong. Yeah.
A little side note on that: there were some complaints to the FCC when he did that because it wasn't bleeped out.
Right.
The networks didn't bleep that out, and there were some complaints to the FCC, and the FCC released a one-line statement: "We stand with David Ortiz."
Amazing.
So even the FCC at that time, who was really picky about this, and our producer Timothy knows about that probably, it would not censor him.
Yeah.
So we stand with David Ortiz. Bruins win the first Stanley Cup in almost 40 years.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That was good. That's been playing on Bruins Encore on Nesson for the past week and a half or so. That was nice because they hadn't won since 1972, I believe, was the last time they had won the title. Right. They really should have won last year. We should be talking about their second, title within that decade. But that was a good time. 28-3.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know what I like about it? That's actually what the title of this one was 28-3. There wasn't anything else said.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what 28-3 means.
Yeah, everybody does. So just amazing. Just the leadership from Brady on the sidelines and all those sound bites, and I still get chills. So
you get chills, and then you get bummed to thinking that he's playing down in Tampa right now.
I'm not bummed. That's okay.
Oh God, that's that when I see that stuff. And we've been so fortunate. We've said this 100 times. We've been so fortunate to have him play for New England and be able to root for him for so many years.
Right.
But there are so many highlights of him. You know, there's so many that you can't get away from it.
No, I know.
Mort's tweet, and we have an image of Mort's tweet, and this actually leads to the bigger story about Deflategate. And so Chris Mortensen, back in 2014, had tweeted that 11 of the 12 footballs were underinflated or something so on.
Yeah.
And then the whole 2 years of Deflategate, that went on for 2 years.
I know. Just crazy. And you know, the whole thing, you had all the scientists out there talking about this law and that law. And I mean, I learned so much about, you know, air over the course of years. But, you know, it was interesting, too, because they were playing the Colts, and Brady didn't even pass the ball because the Patriots won the game on the ground. So it was really interesting that particular game, it was selected that the balls were, deflated.
So they won the Super Bowl that year. That's the year that they beat Seattle.
Yeah.
Then the next year they fought it in court, and they lost in the AFC Championship game against Denver. Mm-hmm. And then the next year he was suspended for the first 4 games, and they won the Super Bowl against Atlanta.
Yep.
So I don't think that talk about having your last laugh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And our last one is Malcolm Butler's game-winning interception. So this is number 1 on the list.
Yeah.
Game-winning interception in Super Bowl 49.
The number 1 interception of all time. Malcolm Butler's Super Bowl saving grab.
The Malcolm Butler interception will forever be one of the greatest plays in football, Patriots, and Super Bowl history.
With 26 seconds to play in Super Bowl 49, Seattle trailed by 4, but had the ball second and goal from the Patriots' 1-yard line. A game-winning touchdown seemed imminent.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
That's such an unbelievable story.
And it's good. Intercepted by Malcolm Butler.
The odds are just infinitesimal.
It's got to be one of the dumbest calls in Super Bowl history.
I can't believe what I just saw.
And all of a sudden, I see Russell Wilson go back to throw it, and I'm thinking, well, this is odd.
Oh, my God, it's picked off.
In one moment, with one improbable play, Patriots fans went from death row to the Playboy Mansion.
And I just remember Pete Carroll's face, just this sort of blank, what just happened?
Just a shot to the heart of every Seahawks fan.
Just as phenomenal an individual play in every way that you'll ever see.
Malcolm Butler. Who is Malcolm Butler? There were so many sports writers going on Wikipedia trying to figure out who the heck he was.
Let's talk about Malcolm Butler.
Let's talk about Malcolm.
Dude came from nowhere.
Totally.
The rookie out of West Alabama, a free agent.
Western Alabama, D2 school. 3 years before that, he was in community college.
Yeah.
5 years before that, he was a woman.
Not true.
A lot of people don't know that about him.
Not true.
He was a woman.
Not true.
This is what happens. The 5th cornerback on the depth chart gets sent in the last second, go in. They're in the goal line set, go in.
Malcolm, go!
And he makes the biggest play, a heck of a play, too, an awesome play.
Said it was going to come down to a play.
I think it was right place, right time. We heard later that he had been beaten on that same play in practice.
Malcolm Butler had played maybe 100 snaps all year long. For him to make that recognition, particularly when he was a backup player, for him to do that in that situation is unbelievable.
It was a phenomenal interception on its own right, but everybody will talk about the play call.
Why did they not just take the ball and run with the legs?
Why did you call that play?
Why? Why, Pete Carroll?
Like, you've got Marshawn Lynch, like, right there. You've got Marshawn Lynch right there.
You've got a guy that's been borderline unstoppable in this part of the field. I can't believe the call.
I guarantee that they believed when they called that play that that was going to be a walk-in touchdown. They thought it would be simple. We're going to make this throw. We're going to win. We'll see you later.
They threw that play 66 times in the NFL that season. There were 0 interceptions until that moment. And Malcolm Butler knew what the play was going to be, because when the Seahawks went to 3 wide receivers out of a goal line set, he knew that's going to be a pass because they would only run the ball out of 2 wide receivers.
He had him. I don't know what happened.
It might have been a stupid play call, but if he didn't know it was coming, it wouldn't have been a stupid play call because that's a touchdown.
Malcolm Butler plays number 1, and it's not even close.
And there's no play like it in the history of the Super Bowl.
To read the play, break on it, and then make a very difficult interception to seal the deal in one of the best Super Bowls ever played, I don't know that you can get a much better interception than that.
Hey, you just won the Super Bowl, man. Malcolm! Are you kidding me? What a
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I've said this before to you. It's a gift from Pete Carroll. Because, Mike, we're standing on the sideline and we're NFL coaches. We're handing that ball off. So,
yeah, I would have. Thank God and that it happened, and because that was the 4th title that broke their 10-year dry spout. I mean, how lucky we are. Our dry spout Super Bowls, but. It really got their run going again.
Yeah,
where they could get that big game, and they since then they won they won Atlanta, and then they beat Los Angeles 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. So we are well out of time.
So we got to make sure we thank our sponsors.
Yep. So we thank Downtown Grill and Cafe.
Yep. Skelly's Market.
And Morrissey's Porch and Pub.
Awesome.
So during this my daughter calls it Small Business Sundays. So. But I'm sure that they like small business every day. So go support your small businesses, and we want to thank them for their support for our show and our social distancing show right now.
Definitely, and special thank you to Timothy Goodwin, of course, for allowing us to do the show, Wolfeboro Community TV, and of course all the edits that Timothy's going to have to do because mostly of me. So thank you
to Aaron House for coming on the show today and sharing some of his programs. That was very insightful for some of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes in the athletic department.
Definitely.
All right, that's it for us. Guys, be safe out there and have a good week.
Thanks. Go Knights.
Go Knights.